Another big thing that happened this weekend, and I don't know if you watched this or not either, but I know this was like the number one article on Sports Illustrated. Had nothing to do, Sports Illustrated Clemson site actually, had nothing to do with Clemson football, but former Clemson football players playing for the XFL.
Yep.
The XFL started up this weekend with four games, so all 8 teams played. And I watched just about every second of the Saturday games and a little bit of the Sunday games. The Saturday games to me were more exciting, but I enjoyed it. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed. I mean, anytime you can watch football, it kind of feels like a college game though, but I didn't dislike it, and it's definitely not the circus WWE like it was 20 years ago that when they tried to do it. It's definitely more of a football game that tries to be the fans' football game. They try to go fast, they try to get rid of boring plays, and they try to give you in-depth, inside information that you don't normally get in a regular football game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, I only watched just a couple of minutes of it and I actually turned it on at a time. A guy had made a simple catch over the middle, I think it was. And, they went to the replay booth to see if he had completed the catch before he just got destroyed by some guy and dropped it. And they kind of had that inside look as, where they took you into the replay booth. And the guy was mic'd up kind of telling you, what they saw and what the call was going to be. That was a really interesting thing. I think the old XFL got, kind of pigeonholed into that gimmick title. They tried to do a bunch of goofy little things that nobody really cared about instead of kind of giving you stuff that you couldn't get from the actual game as far as, the inside look at the replays. And I think they mic'd up a coach as well on the sideline, maybe something to that effect. But they've done a lot of good things here. I think they've got a lot of better chance of kind of surviving than it did the last time.
Yeah, let us know what you think over in the comments on Facebook or YouTube. We got about 14 people watching over on YouTube. People are saying that it was really fun to watch. I mean, so here's my thing. The kickoffs, I don't know, Al, did you get to see the kickoffs?
I saw one kickoff, yes.
Okay, so the kickoffs, the kicker is like at the 30 and the returner's at the 30. Really where I think where the returner can be wherever, but the defenders and on the kicking team and the defenders on the blockers on the receiving team have to be at that 35-yard line, or I'm give or take. I don't know exactly the rules yet, but they're lined up kind of just a few yards from where the ball is going to get caught. So one reason for that is to stop full speed, try to get people not to be injured as much, not try to lower injuries in the kickoffs, make it safer to play. So they avoid that full speed head-to-head collision, which I love. I don't want to see anybody getting paralyzed. I think it's terrible part of the game. But I think it's great because they're just enough yards away to where they can block each other, and it kind of creates this wall to where the receiver has to say, okay, what am I going to do? Where am I going to take it? I only got a few seconds to make a decision. I didn't get to see anybody break a big one, but I thought it was a good adjustment to the kickoff, and I would like to see the other leagues do this as well. I think it was exciting. And don't get me wrong, the old school days of C.J. Spiller and Jacoby Ford running it back, those are great too. But we really don't get a lot of kickoff returns anymore as a Clemson Tiger fan. Do you even remember the last time Clemson had a kickoff return?
I don't. I'm trying to think. It's just kind of, and I agree with you 100%. I like the way they did that. I mean, they're trying to keep an important element and a somewhat exciting element in the game, unlike college, who's just basically gotten rid of it because everybody can kick it out of the end zone now. So it's a cool way to kind of keep it in the game. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure they may get. I think they get punished if they try to get a touchback. I can't even remember what the penalty may be. I'm not sure about all the rules, like I said, but it is a cool way to kind of keep that going. And try to keep that element of the game as a possibility. It's always nice to see a kickoff return. Everybody likes it, and somebody finally breaks one of those kickoffs. It's going to be a pretty cool moment, I'm sure. So I like that. I like the extra point as well, that they banned the extra points. You're basically running another football play. I think I can't remember the yard lines, whether it's the 2, 5, and 10 to go for 1, 2, or 3 points. It's kind of weird, but it's another cool thing I think they've implemented. I think it's got some potential for sure. I like some of the rule changes.
Yeah, you're talking about punts. So if they punt it out of bounds, it goes to the 35-yard line. If they punt it, and it's a touchback, it goes to the 35-yard line. So if you're close to midfield, the recommendation is that you don't punt, because it's a high likelihood that you're going to either go out of bounds or go into the end zone. For me,
Gotcha.
I love that. I mean,
Yeah.
I hate punting. It kind of felt like a Madden game. I mean, you get to see the offenses go out there and really try for it. The XFL actually had analytics done on punting and what situations to punt, and they gave it to the coaches. The same thing with the extra points that you were talking about too. They had these statistics. You can see them on XFL.com. That is a chart of exactly when it's recommended statistically to do what. And most of the time, it's recommended to go for it. And that's why it was designed, was for them to go for it. And that's what I loved about the game Saturday, is it seemed like most of the time they were going for it on fourth down. And go figure, they were actually making it a majority of the times too, which was interesting to see. You know, I think college coaches and NFL coaches get really conservative because it's like, if I botch this, or if my team doesn't make this, I'm gonna look like a fool for weeks. And I would agree with that. But then again, you got to look at the statistics and say, hey, go for it. And it's actually exciting to see. For me, if it were punting, I would say my rule for punting, I wish that they would just say, you can't punt if you're past the 40-yard line. You can't punt. I mean, you got to go and let the chips fall where they may be. You just can't punt at all. There's none of this if it goes out of bounds nonsense. You just can't. You get past your 40-yard line, you can't punt. And so that's what I would do. That's what we used to do in Madden. Same thing for the extra points. I was telling Ben Milstead this in text message that it's recommended that you go for 2, which is, I think, like you said, from the 5-yard line. It's recommended to go for 2 and not go for 1, which is from your typical 2-yard line, I believe, 2 or 3-yard line. And then you can go for 3 from the 10-yard line, but that's more risky. For me, there was a play where the Dragons scored and tied the game, and they had almost 2 quarters left to play, and they tied the game 19-19. And then they went for 1 point. And I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. Why do you go for 1 point? The other team has 2 chances to do better than you, and 1 chance to tie you. So you're not really playing the odds there. And go figure, when you go to that stat sheet, you can see you should go for 2 most of the time. That's the way it's designed. So that way there's only 1 chance for a tie, and there's only 1 chance for you to beat it. But I'm seeing that still coaches are very conservative. They're just going to go and do the normal yardage, what they've always been used to. But I'd like to see more 2 and 3 point conversions. I mean, to me, if you're in the red zone, wouldn't you want to have 10 yards plus the end zone? I would want to have more space. What do you think?
More space. Obviously, I mean, you watch college football, a lot of people, do great when they're in space, and then they kind of bog down when they get closer to the end zone. I don't know that 10 yards is quite as much room as you need to work. I don't know if it's, it's kind of 20, I think, is kind of the standard there as far as having room to work. So I don't know that 10 is going to make that big a difference, but I do like it. I do like the element of being able to go for 1, 2, or 3. I think that's an interesting way to do it. I mean, you think, college coaches now kind of have it tough, in late game situations when they're maybe trying to play catch up. Do they go for 1? Do they go for 2? This is a whole different dynamic. Now you can go for 1, 2, or 3. And when do you start going for what? There's a lot of things that come into play when you have this many options. But I think it's a good kind of gimmick to go with.
Well, from the stat sheet, it was saying if you're tied and have a lot of time left, then you need to go for 2 or better. If you're behind, you need to go for 3. If you're up or tied and there's not a lot of time left, you go for 1. So that's the way that the bracket's basically broken out, which is interesting. Let us know over in the chat what you think about the XFL.